Is Apple going to be reintroducing a new budget and smaller iPhone at the beginning of 2018? And yes, a lot of my hair has been removed. Feel free to make those comments now. I'm starting to think Apple might actually hold a keynote in March. Not a big one, I know, but the kind of the stuff that's going to be coming out might pile up to equal out to a whole keynote, because what we're hearing is that the iPhone SE, which there are so many loyal fans of, it's actually kind of surprising. I don't know that many people who use one, and yet online, all the time people are like, when's the next one? When is the SE getting a refresh? It's like, calm down, okay? It's a phone that looks like the iPhone 5. And of course, there's already been a ton of concepts for how they could bring the features that we're seeing in the iPhone 10 into the SE. If they'd even call it that, they may call it a budget phone, they may call it the 10 mini, or who knows? Names are impossible to predict. Lots of people going along with the 10 idea with removing the physical home button and going to gestures, having a same size bezel all the way around, including a notch. And I had some ideas about that. I actually think that when you're looking at the size of an iPhone SE and you're comparing it to that of the 10, there's not as much room at the top. You know, that top bezel is not going to have any kind of ears on the side for storing widgets, especially if you consider that Face ID kind of has to take up this space. There's the earpiece there, there's the front-facing camera there, dot projector, infrared, everything. Stuffing all of that into the top of an SE-sized device might actually result in there not being a notch. So a lot of people who hate that type of intrusion, my idea, and I haven't really seen a concept for it yet, but my idea is that the SE version of the 10, curved corners, no home button, gesture controls, obviously switching to Face ID. I think that they would just kind of have a top bezel to the phone with the Face ID sensors, and that's it. You'd have a forehead that has a bit of thickness to it and a same size bezel on the sides and the chin. Now, one thing I think Apple would acknowledge is that one of the main purposes of the SE was not necessarily to cater to just people who want a smaller form factor, but also to people who are looking for a budget smartphone. To this day, iPhone SE is still the cheapest brand new iPhone you can get, starting at $350, which is not bad at all, especially compared to this guy at $1,000 to $1,200. So I think with that in mind, there's definitely a lot of features that the smaller version of the 10 that is making an effort to make things more affordable. For instance, a lot of concepts are showing an SE with a dual camera. While that would be cool, and believe me, if it was my unlimited wish list video, then yeah, I would love for a phone this small be an option for you guys and include a dual camera. Another issue with implementing a dual camera is keep in mind there's a reason it is vertical on the iPhone 10. It's not just because they were bored and thought, oh, let's turn it on its side. The Face ID sensors take up a lot of space. This top proximity sensor on the 10 is absolutely stuffed to the brim with different cameras and dot projectors and the earpiece. All of that took up space, which is why that the dual camera on the 10 could not go horizontally like it does on the 7 or the 8. It kind of builds out this way with the two cameras, the flash, and the microphone. There was no room for that. And of course, the biggest issue you'd be having with an SE model is stuffing all of this revolutionary new tech into an even smaller form factor. So I simply think that there wouldn't be room in the phone itself to have a dual camera. It would have to stick with the same sensor that we're seeing in the iPhone 8. And while yes, this would be more affordable, it would be one of those compromises. It's like, yeah, you don't get those portrait mode settings unless Apple figures out what the Google Pixel team figured out. However, you could get portrait mode on the front-facing camera because this would have the Face ID sensors, which allow that to happen on this, which is still in beta, but with software that can be improved. One thing I wouldn't predict you'd see on the next version of the iPhone SE either is OLED. Yes, I know, it's a beautiful display and I love it on the iPhone 10, but again, if the intention is to make a more budget-friendly iPhone, that's not necessarily for the holidays. This would be like around a March release. That's when the original SE came out. I think they would stick with a standard LCD. In an effort to make things cheaper, in an effort to make manufacturing this thing easy, and prevent it from cannibalizing the iPhone 10 production, I think they would stick with the same displays that we're seeing in the iPhone 8, which are by no means bad displays. We could get a much higher pixel density on this guy because as of now, the SE has a very low pixel density. We of course could see the True Tone display, the 3D Touch, hopefully a taptic engine. There's a lot of things in terms of display technology that the SE can improve on that I don't think would be too hard for Apple to implement. One thing I think could help the SE support taptic feedback and support all of those new features is removing the headphone jack. And it's probably something not that many Apple users would care about because we've said goodbye to the headphone jack for over a year now. I can't tell you how many people are now using iPhone 7s all the time. I just look around and I see them everywhere. I don't see dongles either. Most people are pretty okay with just ditching it. So I think for the sake of making a smaller, more affordable iPhone 10, removing it could help a lot. Now, one thing I think could drastically change the look of the iPhone SE is if they decided to implement Qi wireless charging, which of course I love. It allows you to take place in the portless challenge that I've still been keeping up with. It's been great. And it would definitely get rid of this iconic look of the glass on the bottom and the top with aluminum in the middle. If it was all glass, I think it would look a lot cleaner, would look a lot more futuristic. And even though the build quality of the SE kind of more boxier than our typical iPhones now, that would basically stay the same. But recognizing this new smaller iPhone 10, I think would be far more noticeable, and it would be like, hey, that's a really cool, capable phone. I also anticipate that this would be powered by the A11 Bionic chip, and with that smaller resolution, that smaller display, I think your Geekbench scores on this thing would be really high, which of course means 4K at 60 on a device with no camera bulge, hopefully. And while they're at it with upgrading, I think they could implement the stereo speakers. This is also something the iPhone SE does not currently have, and something I really enjoy in here, as well as the IP67 water resistance. But overall, yes, I think it would be absolutely great to see that with the success of the iPhone 10, Apple starts diversifying. At the beginning of the year, when there's not a ton of people buying phones, but some people wanting more affordable upgrades, they could see a very capable device with Face ID, really good camera, not a dual camera, but something basic that works really, really well, and with gesture controls, with a display that's pretty good and gets you ready for the future with those curved corners and those gestures, wireless charging, no headphone jack. Then, of course, at the end of the year, we get the addition of the Plus model iPhone 10. In 2018, we'll get this massive, rumors are saying 6.5-inch display, but I think introducing a small one at the beginning of the year and a big one at the end is a great way to keep all iPhone users as happy as possible, give them selection, give them diversity. Like I said at the beginning, there might be enough content for like a full keynote in March. First of all, you could unveil AirPower. Second, you can introduce the new wireless charging AirPods, say that they're available. Then the HomePod, which has been delayed till 2018. You could introduce blush gold on the iPhone 10, create new color options. Of course, it's a keynote, so just, you know, release new cases, new watch bands. By the way, I'd really appreciate a smart battery case for the 10 that does not use the lightning port. It just uses Qi charging. How neat would that be? Maybe update the 2017 iPad so we have a budget-friendly keynote. And alongside it, yeah, introduce the new iPhone SE that's been 2018ized, if that's a verb. So of course, let me know what you think of the iPhone SE rumors. What would you like to see in an SE? It's entirely possible we're overhyping this. It's very, very possible that we'll just get more storage options in the exact same build quality, Touch ID, no hardware changes, just that's it. Maybe a processor bump. That's entirely possible too. I hope it's not that. I want you guys who prefer this smaller form factor to be treated. I want you guys to have a product that is modern, and I hope Apple treats you to that. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.